Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:31 p.m. and a quorum of members is present, so the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby.
Here.
Mr. Helmer. Mr. Kurth.
Yes.
Ms. Scholes.
Here.
Mr. Seidel. Ms. Unger.
Here.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Okay, so I do know that Mr. Helmer, Ms. Wonderchek, and Mr. Seidel are unable to attend tonight. So I would entertain a motion to recess to closed session.
Madam President, I move to recess to closed session pursuant to Section 19.851C E and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider A, the approval of closed session minutes of September 27th, B, the employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff, and C, contract negotiations regarding facility naming rights, and D, discuss superintendent self-evaluation.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Crosby. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kurth.
Yes.
Ms. Crosby.
Yes.
Ms. Scholes.
Yes.
Ms. Unger.
Yes.
We are moving to closed session. We'll return to open session around 7 o'clock. It is now 7:15, and we are returning from closed session into open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. For those who are able, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we will have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by providing the agenda to the City Library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal-Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the Waukesha Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. Next, we'll have privilege of the floor. Meetings of the board are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the business of the schools and therefore are not public meetings, but meetings held in public. This portion of the meeting is an opportunity for you to come and voice your concerns to the board. So please do not be offended when we quietly listen. We may even take notes. We do not immediately respond to your questions and comments. This is a time for you to talk and us to listen. Thank you for coming to voice your comments and concerns. When I call your name, please step up to the microphone, address the chair, and state your name and whether or not you are a resident in the school district. Each presentation is to be restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. Privilege of the floor will be limited to 1/2 hour. Presentations are not to be designed for purposes of engaging others in a debate in this forum. Discussion of certified, classified, or professional personnel or of individual Board of Education members shall not be considered an appropriate topic for this forum, and the speaker will be ruled out of order. We just have one speaker tonight, Kelly Griffin.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Griffin, and I'm a resident of New Berlin. My comments to you may be familiar as they were first emailed in mid-September, but I'd like to restate some points and then include an addendum. During the September 13th school board meeting, it was disclosed that the district has an available surplus of approximately $2 million. My son, an 8th grader at New Berlin West, and I attended the meeting together. At one point, I whispered to him that it was okay to leave if he wanted to, and he said, "No, I'm listening." On the way home, we started talking about the surplus and comments we heard regarding wanting to place more highlight on non-sports related achievements and programs. Our immediate thoughts were about the music program at West. My son is a percussionist with the marching band. During the first home football game, as John was rolling the xylophone onto the field for the halftime show, one of the legs bent, causing the xylophone to collapse. About a month prior, some of the strings holding the bars in place broke and the xylophone was restrung. Per Kyle Fletcher, New Berlin West Band director, most of the percussion instruments that we have were purchased before 1982. Many are in okay shape, but things like the vibraphone and xylophone, both purchased in 1974, are starting to break down. A refresh of equipment is becoming more and more necessary by the year. Mr. Fletcher has a complete inventory of instruments and music-related supplies, circa 1987. The problem with instruments being so old is that it's difficult, if not impossible, to find replacement parts. Repairs are often temporary or very costly. On behalf of the New Berlin West Band, especially my son, who is a percussionist and planning on staying in the program throughout high school and even focusing on music as a profession, I ask that you please consider allocating a meaningful portion of the surplus to repair or replace band equipment. Music is an essential component of diversity within the curriculum and can be the start of a career path for aspiring artists. Since this initial request, Michael Fezemeyer, the New Berlin West principal, called to let me know that the school is discussing instrument and program-related needs. I'd like to publicly thank him and the district staff he's working with for their efforts. I'd also like to encourage continued financial support and resources be allocated to the school, especially in light of the surplus and need. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not have any messages or announcement tonight, so we'll go straight to the administrative team report.
I guess I'd like to start with Emily's update.
Awesome, thank you. The New Berlin West Vikings had a shutout last Friday against Pius with a score of 42-0. The cross-country team had 6 athletes medal at Lincoln Park last week, with both girls and boys finishing in 5th place. The boys soccer team beat Wisco last night at home, receiving them the number 2 seed for the WIAA tournament, which begins next week. Fall sports have been recognizing their seniors recently with dedicated senior nights. Girls volleyball had their senior night and Dig Pink event, which raised over $800 for cancer awareness on October 8th. The Spirit of New Berlin Marching Band took first in the Phantom Fest competition last weekend. New Berlin West had a very successful homecoming week, and all of these students had a great time with things being back to normal this year. The Spanish Honor Society is celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with hallway music and posters honoring important aspects of Hispanic culture. This club is also organizing their 2nd annual Dia de los Muertos celebration on October 24th. This night will include piñatas, bingo, a bonfire, and lots of festive food. National Honor Society will be hosting a candy hunt event at West for elementary schoolers on October 29th. NHS and DECA will be organizing a trick or can this fall to collect cans and goods for the food pantry. New members of En Vogue and El Sol, the French and Spanish Honor Society, will take part in a trilingual induction ceremony tonight at West. Many students have been involved in ACT and PSAT testing opportunities recently. Students have been able to learn about the options in their future with a financial aid boot camp and the Wisconsin Education Fair. And theater recently had middle school auditions for The Almost True Story of Hansel and Gretel, and the high school had auditions for The Man Who Came to Dinner. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now for my updates, I guess I'd like to start by thanking Emily, who joined Diana and me last week as we welcomed the board's new student representative for Eisenhower, Simon Featherston. I did provide that some detail in my update to the board, and actually Simon has accepted the role and responsibilities that come with it. He was highly recommended by the staff here at Eisenhower. He was kind of vetted through a process, and Emily approved. So because of Emily's approval and our support, Simon will be here in a couple weeks. So thanks, Emily, for helping us with that. And again, Simon will be here at the next board meeting. I also did want to give a brief shout out to not only our students, but our staff. You know, I'm looking out, supportive parents, but we've got some of our administrators here. And as you know, we have a rotation of our administrative team that comes to our board meetings. I know that Mondays are a long day for everybody, but we also do believe it's also important for them to be a part of the board process at this level. But it's nice to always have our administrative team here for their support as needed, whether it's a part of our presentations or simply for just moral support like tonight. So thank you, admin team, for being here and supporting us in our efforts, and to the parents that are here and supporting our efforts as well.
I'm sorry it's not more entertaining.
What was that?
Sorry it's not more entertaining.
Yeah, well, actually, no, you're welcome that it's not more entertaining. So I'll just start with a general COVID update. I will say that our numbers are staying relatively, they actually are trending downward from the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think some of the biggest factors, if you're a data geek, like some of our board or our admin team members are, I guess Kelly Kay is one of them. But community spread is a direct correlation to the level of spread in our schools and our community. So, for example, if we get a weekly updates from the county, and then I meet with them every week, I have a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow. But if you can see the level of spread in the community and it goes up, you're going to see that same level of transmission change in our I wouldn't say in our schools, but our student body. And then, as numbers trend downward, there's a direct correlation with that with our student body as well. So I think we were at a high of the highest that we've had since the start of the school year was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now we're again on a downward trend as far as COVID positive cases. We've been minimally impacted as far as our staff go. And we are, continuing to look at and monitoring the data and breaking down the data to determine, what changes may or may not need to be made. And so, for example, I know that other school districts, for example, have thresholds where they will determine that the school district will move to masking their respective students. We've chosen, or at least to date, have chosen not to set a specific threshold because I believe in some cases that can kind of get you in trouble, especially with how fluid the cases can be from literally a day-to-day basis. And so, like some of the data that we're analyzing, it's interesting because in some cases, when school districts have gone from no masking to masking, it doesn't necessarily stop the spread of COVID. Amongst the students. And so that's an interesting point. The other thing that I will share is that some other Waukesha County school districts chose to have masked only classrooms and classrooms that were, where the masks were recommended and not required. Interestingly enough, what's happening is that some of the outbreaks are actually occurring in the masked required classrooms and not the other way around that one would tend to expect or anticipate. So, again, we continue to follow these numbers, and today we wouldn't come forth with any additional recommendations to make any changes, because again, we're navigating through as needed. We're making the adjustments as needed, and our goal will continue to be to stay open, in person, face to face for the entire school year. A knock on wood, just like we did last school year. We were only one of a few districts that was able to have that as an accomplishment, and I think, our students certainly reaped the benefits of that, along with that virtual option that we had. So, again, we continue to monitor the numbers, hospitalization rates. I know that one of the data points that a lot of people bring to my attention is more students are being transmitted COVID, or young children or school age children, and yes, numbers are going up, or the percentage is going up of COVID positive people, but the numbers aren't necessarily going up. So if you think about the people that are vaccinated, those are people at ages 18 and older, and then now actually 16 and older are eligible for the vaccine. They are less susceptible to the virus because they are vaccinated. So of course the number of the percentage of kids getting it would be more, because the pool's still only this big per se. Well, if you got a portion of that pool that's already vaccinated, the numbers will go up in one or the percentage will go up, not necessarily the number. And what's interesting is the hospitalization rates for students is actually on the decline. So yes, they may be getting COVID, but the hospitalization rates haven't really changed since the start of the pandemic. So again, we continue to monitor that data. And again, we do that internally with our pandemic response team. We consult with the Waukesha County Health Department, and then I also consult with other Waukesha County school districts, which are very similar to us in nature. For example, some in Milwaukee County have their own respective health departments, so they're getting either guidance and or requirements from their respective health department, and or their county has a separate list of needs. So our comparable is our Waukesha County counterparts. So that's what we have for there. I was asked by the board to also bring an update as far as our negotiation with Everside. Everside is basically our in-house clinic that is offered to our staff and their families as part of a way to minimize our healthcare costs. So yes, we do have a cost in working with Everside, but the more utilization we get at Everside means utilization outside of Everside decreases, and our rates actually, our overall medical costs actually go down with that increased utilization. because of the criteria that we had set for performance metrics with Everside, we actually were scheduled to make a payment of an additional $12,000 to them based on the metrics that we have actually provided with the board. Was originally provided with the personnel committee, which Janet and Kate are both a part of. And one of the things that was brought to light by Nicole, our Director of Employment Services, was that while Everside was looking to transition from their old clinic over to their new clinic, which is over in the it's a couple doors down from the Dunkin' Donuts on Moreland now, they were actually only offering virtual visits. And so our healthcare consultant, our new healthcare consultant, negotiated with them. And as a result of that negotiation, two things have occurred. One, we will no longer be owing them that $12,000 that originally was scheduled to be done based on their performance metrics. But then two, we're also taking a better look at those performance metrics to make sure that now we've gone through that first year and we know now what we may or may not need to do differently or increase the level of expectation for them. That is something that we are working with them on to kind of get those newer metrics. We will report that back to the personnel committee initially and then eventually to the board at some point. I guess, Patrick, I'm not sure when we're scheduled to do that or how we're going to do that, but I think it would be soon. Are you aware of when our healthcare consultant will have those updated metrics?
We actually have a meeting with our healthcare consultant later this week, and that's one of the topics is trying to nail down a timetable when we're going to have that renegotiation with Everside complete.
So I guess personnel committee, it'll come to you first, and then we'll bring that to the board. I guess, Kate, I would ask you that maybe that be put as a draft agenda item for, I'm not sure when the personnel committee is scheduled to.
I think not until January.
Not till January. So, I mean, I think that would, I mean, we may need something prior to that if we do, just because we want to get those metrics in place sooner than later. So we may need to schedule something, and we'll, Dan, if we can stay on top of that, maybe add it to ELT tomorrow so we can stay on top of that. So that's all I had, but were there any questions about that Everside negotiation? Again, I was asked to bring that back to the board.
Can you clarify what you meant when you said something about they were offering virtual only appointments? Is that why we got the metric 12,000 thing adjusted?
Yeah, so
because it wasn't really accurate?
Correct. Actually, as I recall, there were a couple board members that had concerns with that they weren't, fully open for business. Again, it was due to their transition to the new facility. And yes, as a result, they were only offering virtual options for a short period of time. But certainly that did take away, that does take away an option for our employees. And so as a result of that, we were able to negotiate that those dollars that we had owed them per the performance metrics are no longer owed. And then again, we're seeking clarification of those performance metrics. Thank you.
You have any other questions? I just have a quick question about the COVID dashboard. And this is actually a follow-up. I know Crystalline couldn't be here tonight, and she had a question on that. As far as what's being reported in the dashboard, is that everybody, or can a parent say, I don't want my child in that dashboard counted?
No, because there's nothing self-identifiable in there. So we include every student that, whether a parent agrees with it or not. Again, there are no names on there. A school, if they have 5 or less, they will not be noted on there because then a kid could possibly be self-identified. But no, we don't necessarily ask permission of a parent to include their student's positive case as a positive case number on that dashboard.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions in this section, then we'll go on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. On to the regular agenda. First up is facilities rental update.
So I will have Patrick present this on our behalf. The board had set aside a goal to move forward with a centralized facility rental program. And so we had done our research throughout most of the last school year of what programs or resources we had currently in place in order to get us to that point. And we did provide a verbal update to the board, but this will be an update to not only the board, but also the general public of our efforts. Patrick.
Hey, thanks, Joe. So what we want to start with tonight is just to kind of give a quick snapshot of what the facility rental looked like prior to us moving to a centralized facility rental program or system. We were dealing with all paper forms. Those paper forms were managed at the building level. They were managed by the head custodian. Billing was done individually at each building, and availability was only, you could only find out what was available by calling the school office and asking. The changes that we've brought with the centralized program right now is the requests are made online. You become a requester by submitting an application, and once you become a requester, then you're given access to see what facilities are available throughout our district. There's a single point of contact for the facility request, Katie Christopy in my office, and that way any questions or any additional requirements for a person requesting to use a facility it's coordinated by one person instead of by multiple people. The calendars are online that will show what the facility availability is as opposed to calling and asking. Centralized billing assures that anything that's billable, whether it's we have some groups that do not have to pay a fee to use our facility, but if there's additional cost, for example, for custodial time, those are all billable costs. So now we're making sure that all of those billable costs are sent out. And we also have a better handle over what groups have provided the necessary certificates of insurance for liability when they use our particular facility. This is just a snapshot of where we are with our reservations, and this was, when we produced this report, it was the 28th of September. We've had 47 either individuals or groups that have been approved as a facility requester. There have been 79 permits that have been issued, and out in those 79 permits, it's essentially rented 247 different facilities. Our number one facility renter is the City of New Berlin. They have been approved for 114 of those 247 dates. The most common space that is requested is gym space. So even in the fall, when it's still nice out, it's still late in later into the evening, the number one space that's requested is the gym. Now we're going to be moving into the winter months where that is going to be, the gym space is going to be even more of a hot commodity. And unfortunately, we don't have any extra gyms laying around that we can open up. Moving forward, our goals would be to work towards incorporating the West PAC into this rental plan. We would like to develop some promotional materials that we can use to let folks that live in the City of New Berlin know what facilities are available, and also let businesses that are in the New Berlin area of some of the facilities that are available for them to use as well. And we also want to develop the promotional material online. The only two challenges that we're really looking at right now is, again, the availability of gym space, because we only have so much gym space that's available, and some of our gyms are small. Some of our gym spaces have low ceilings, and so, again, it becomes, we look at all of the spaces that we have in the district, and we're thinking, my gosh, we've got a lot of space, but it's that hard court that seems to be the hot commodity. And then understanding that there are some businesses out there that are not renewing leases on their building space, letting their employees work from home, but they still need to have spaces where they can have meetings, which we want to try to make ourselves available for. The issue is they want those spaces between 8 and 3, and we have a little bit of a problem there because we have kids in the buildings between 8 and 3, and so that's going to be a challenge. We're going to try to work through it. We're going to try to find creative ways that we can try to work through that. But again, just understand that if a business wanted to rent a place from 5 o'clock in the evening until 9 o'clock at night, it would be easy. But they're going to want to have those meetings between 8 and 3 when we're conducting the main part of our business. But we'll keep working on it.
Yeah, a couple other quick pieces, Patrick, if you can go back. There will be some relief as it relates to gym space in New Berlin. The OHO, or the Orthopedic Hospital of Wisconsin facility out on National and Racine, will be opening up soon, and they will have a lot of indoor space available for the community, which may or may not free up our gym space because some people may take their business from here and go to there. The nice part about it is we've got a built-in customer already, and that's the city of New Berlin. But there also may be competition for some of the leagues and things. So, for example, I know that pickleball, no, you do not use a pickle for this game. But pickleball has become a very popular recreational activity. In fact, we've got a lot of staff members that participate in that. But once the weather changes outside, they want to come inside. And, it sounds like they may be doing some pickleball leagues out at that facility, which then we may not need as many or as much gym space for the city, or maybe it will. People may not want to pay that. I don't know what the charges are going to be, but, there's going to be some flexibility. I also do know that there are a couple of other indoor baseball facilities that have been recently built. So, for example, the Sticks Academy Baseball and Softball League is out on Highway 164. The Wisconsin Halos is another baseball organization. I believe they have a sister softball group. They've now built an indoor facility, kind of kitty corner from the Walmart in Muskego off of Moreland. So again, so when Patrick says things like, well, we've got short ceilings like at, for example, at Orchard Lane, in some cases, all we need is like a batting cage in some cases. But the problem is you can put a batting cage in it, but in order to kind of put the hoops up and down, it interferes with that batting cage. And so, in some cases, we can't even put up that batting cage that we want. So, again, our facilities are limited. We're maximizing them to the amount. I mean, I give credit to Patrick and Andy and the ADs and our staff for trying to kind of maximize those opportunities. And I think this has helped us with that. But again, so we'll continue to kind of move forward through this. And, the other thing that, and I don't mean this to be a controversial topic by any means, but some people also want to use a facility because they offer alcoholic beverages at it. So when you're talking about private business, they may choose to have their outing at some place that offers alcohol. Not to say that alcohol is everything, but I know that we've brought that to the board before. So, like, for example, there would be things. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be at like events where students would be added or anything like that, but could we, instead of doing, could we do an adult situation, over at the Performing Arts Center where you've got drinks and appetizers before and during the intermission of the event. Other districts do that when they have facilities like the Performing Arts Center on their school grounds. We've not moved forward with that, but that will be something that we'll bring forth to the board as part of our policy revisions of, where is the board at with that? Again, there would be limitations to make sure because we are a public school. Certainly not something to promote alcohol, but it would enhance opportunities for the facilities to be rented in various different capacities, unlike what we've been able to share before. So, you think about like St. Elizabeth Seton, they have their Seton Fest or Holy Apostles. Why couldn't, they're not necessarily encouraging alcohol, they're encouraging the event. So is that something that, or like, I think about like our baseball banquet that we have at Maddie's. Is that something that could instead be held on site, with limitations, obviously, given the fact that we are a public school district. So again, those will be on the horizon. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing. Thanks for the work of you and Katie. But any other questions from the board?
I have two questions. I know, Patrick, a couple of years ago when we were doing kind of the budget exploration and we were talking about this, you did some analysis on who was renting our facilities. So just curious, of the 47 applications, renters that have been approved, are any of those new renters or most of them people that had already been using our facilities and now it's just a better process?
Most of the people are repeat.
Okay.
If we have any new ones, it's maybe one or two.
Okay. And then just curious too, with the Parks and Recs building that's going in next to Burghart's, I think they're putting a gym in there. Is there going to be any impact to what the rec department is renting once their facility is up and running?
So we've been working with the city on that because we had some questions. In fact, one of the things that, with Ron being a former alderman, he kind of looked into some things, but unfortunately, because we had asked like, hey, can we use some of your gym space? Can we use your facilities and get a little reciprocity? It's not going to be the level that we would need. So for example, one of the things that we were looking for were batting cage time. They won't even have batting cages there. So I don't think it's going to be, I think it'll provide some relief, but entirely, so for example, of all the different requests that they provided, it may help them in some of the offerings that they provide, but I don't know if that would benefit us necessarily. Again, we checked into that. It may provide some more opportunity for them. We'll continue to work with them on, there may be situations where we could benefit from it, but we'll continue that conversation. And no, I don't believe there will be a gymnasium in there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, is there anything else?
Yeah, I'll just,
You have something?
yeah, just real quick. I know in 2014 when we were tossing around ideas regarding the PAC and the opportunity of possibly bringing in like a wine or beer for other opportunities. I would like, if you guys have information on it, to see what it would take, if that was something that we wanted to entertain, if you guys could gather information for that. Because I think it opens up another venue. Because if you look at places like the Wilson Center,
Yep.
that have high-end things, having hors d'oeuvres and wine for guests that would do something probably would make both the PACs probably a little bit more attractive as well.
Yeah. So we've done that research. We'll bring it back. But that's a great example. Or like South Milwaukee has a performing arts center that's on their, that's connected to their schools and it's on campus, and they do those types of things too. So up in Hartford, I believe they have something similar. Now, I don't know if that PAC is attached or not, but they utilize it for the school. I know that I'll be working with the foundation on that, but obviously we're going to need board approval per policy. And so that was something that we were working on with the previous executive director. What I did find out is, for example, one of the things that we needed to clarify was, does the school district, this sounds really bizarre that I'm even saying this, the school district and liquor license in the same sentence, but no, we would not seek a liquor license to be able to offer those types of things. What would happen is whoever is sponsoring the event, so like, for example, I know I've emceed for the New Berlin Community Band before, but let's say they have an event over at the PAC and they want to offer wine tasting prior or wine before the event. They would need to seek out, again, once the board had approved an approved policy, they would get a temporary permit to allow alcohol at that event, just like St. Elizabeth Seton does for their Seton Fest. Holy Apostles, again, they don't have a liquor license, but they get a permit to allow liquor on their grounds for an event. So that's more of what it would look like. So we've dug into that a little bit. We hit pause again, all mainly because of COVID, but we will certainly be bringing that back. But again, this conversation with Patrick and his team moving this work forward, it's been brought up again, and again, now the foundation has been reinvigorated with a new director, and so I think we're going to start breathing some more energy into this work as well. And Diana, can we add that to ELT tomorrow too? Thank you.
All right, then we'll move on to the action on items discussed in closed session. We have 2 motions. Do I have our first motion for the Employment Services Report?
Sure. I move to approve the employment performance and compensation matters pertaining to staff as presented.
So I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Crosby. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. And then the second motion in regards to the contract negotiations, facility naming rights.
I move to approve the contract negotiations regarding the facility naming rights as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Crosby. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Then we're on to our future meetings and dates. Board meetings are generally held the second and fourth Mondays, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Eisenhower Commons, unless noted otherwise, and until further notice. Our next meeting is October 25th at 7 o'clock p.m., preceded by a 5:30 Finance Committee meeting. And then we have a meeting November 8th at 7 o'clock p.m., and a meeting November 22nd at 7 o'clock p.m., preceded by a Facilities Committee meeting. Other important dates to remember is November 11th is Veterans Day, and there's details in progress right now. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Crosby. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.